Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to another fun and family-friendly episode of Analog Stick Radio. I am your host, Mitch, and as always, I am joined by this dastardly duo over here. Over to my left, I have Christopher, swirling his mustache like an evil villain. You can't see it if you're listening to the podcast, so you're missing out on a lot of shit. Chris, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you.
You're welcome. And then down below me, as always, I have Mr. Dakota. How are you doing, buddy?
We can't refer to facial hair when we're introducing us, otherwise I'm left long in the dust.
Yeah, I mean, I have this like ridiculously manly beard going on. Christopher is right behind me, looking real good. And Dakota, you're just left in the dust.
Bare as a baby's ass.
It looks like there's dust on your face.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
I mean, you should put a tumbleweed on there just for
a little glue stick, and a little San Diego beach sand. Boop, 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 boop. That's how I get this.
All right, guys. So normally we would talk about what's new with us in gaming, but we all did something pretty fucking awesome this weekend. So let's just conjointly, that's a word, I'm making it up right now, talk about it. The Overwatch beta was until yesterday at 3
It's like, what did we do together? I don't remember. No. He's blanked it out of his mind. Well, let's just say...
We did play some Overwatch for the Metabet, so it's weird. We won't talk about those scenarios.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about Overwatch in general, like the new things that we saw. So we saw a lot of new maps. What did you guys think of the new maps that we saw? Christopher, I'm tossing it at you first.
Well, actually, I was playing on my friend's account, so they weren't really new to me, but I guess I'll comment on that newest one. The Route 66 or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. I liked it. I thought it was kind of funny, and a couple other people mentioned it, how they felt like they added it near the end of development, so that everybody didn't go, what a TF2 ripoff.
That's right.
It's got like the same art style as Team Fortress.
Yeah,
like
the same aesthetics, like the browns and the reds and... Absolutely.
I almost thought it was like a tipping of the hat, like, hey, TF2, thanks.
That's a good way to look at it. I didn't think of that. That's a great way to look at it.
I feel like it was just kind of like they just went in the same area, and it looks like it's a great art style or a great set theme for that art style.
That's true.
It looks fantastic. It reminds me of old Wile E. Coyote type.
Because Overwatch is set in the real world, for those that don't know. So all of their maps are actually set in real locations on Earth, and this one's in Nevada, I guess. It's on Route 66. Is that in Nevada? I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know geography.
You're from that side of the country.
Yeah, you're from that side. You're from the West Coast
area, man.
It's somewhere around here. It actually looks like the Grand Canyon.
Covered.
Yeah, so. Yeah. You guys got the It actually looks like the Grand Canyon. But I would remember if the map said Arizona, so it's not Arizona. The game is great though. I mean, I asked my friend, I'm like, all right, last night we were playing the last wee hours of the night. I think it closed at 10 this morning. And I'm like, how much longer do we have to wait? 2 weeks? Only 2 more weeks until this game is actually in our hands for as long as we wish to play at once. So,
I actually get to keep skins I open or don't open.
Yeah, or don't open, as the case might be.
I felt like they gave away so many legendary skins this week. Like they must have increased the drop rate because I got 5
0.
legendary.
I got 0, bro.
You got 5?
Fucking 0.
I had a
got
bunch.
Like 5 legendary skins, man, and I never anyone who knows me can attest to my luck at Blizzard games.
It's a bit
like I'm gonna go to Warcraft story here real quick. When I was big into WoW, in vanilla, we started raiding, and so I wanted to get gear, and I wasn't able to get the first tier gear because you have to farm these bosses every week and whatever. I spent 2 entire months going to Scholomance. You'll remember Scholomance.
Oh, yeah.
And I went there every single night, at least once a night. Many nights I did 2 runs.
To get the mant?
To get these frost gloves. They weren't even like my Magister's set. They weren't even the pre-set. They were just frost damage gloves, and they did so much damage for me. And I was like,
back when you could get relevant raid gear in a dungeon.
It took me 2 months of every single night, at least one. One time, they dropped in the middle, and they were ninja looted by a paladin.
Oh my god!
Well, paladins have a lot of frost damage.
A lot of frost damage with their
frost these nuts, says Chris. Frost these nuts.
So never in my life have I been that pissed.
Man.
Yeah. And then lo and behold, Mitch walks into Anixia's lair and gets his tier 2 helm the first time.
Blammo. So what about you, Mitch?
Awesome.
Aside from Overwatch, anything new with you in games this week?
I don't want to admit this to you guys, but I'm going to have to. I started playing League of Legends again. I started playing again.
Nope.
I started playing.
Don't want to hear it.
I'm sorry.
If you complain, I'm going to stop communication with you the rest of that day.
I am not complaining. I've actually tried this new thing. I was telling a buddy of mine at work.
Not complaining.
He was like, man, I really want to play League of Legends because I like the game. Like, it's fun. He's like, but god damn it, the community is god-awful. Sure. And I told him I've been trying this new thing that actually our friend Mike, who was on the podcast for the MOBA episode, he had suggested to me. He's like, just join a game and literally just mute everybody. Mute everybody. Your team, their team. Just mute everybody and listen to music. I know you've been saying it too. I know you've been saying it too. And I just start doing that now. I just join a game and I'm like, mute.
I'm really afraid to do that.
And I have a great game. Like, it's awesome. People may be yelling at me. I don't hear it.
Wow.
People may be bitching about how OP I am. I don't hear it.
I'm so afraid to do that just because of how important I find communication in games like that. But I guess it's a little different in League because there's no voice chat, right? There's just text.
Yeah, you can still ping with the mouse controls.
Okay.
So I just do that. I'm just like, hey, I'm on my way here.
That's enough. And they have a lot of different kinds. There's like a retreat ping.
Right. That's true.
I'm on my way ping. So you can get a lot of important information real quick.
I just realized that all I was doing was pinging anyways. Like, only time I was using chat was to just talk to some idiot who was yelling at me. Like, that was it. So I was like, why am I even using this? Fuck it.
Sure.
So,
well, yeah.
That's what I've been doing.
I would mute people all the time when I played League, but when I switched over to here, since I've switched over to Heroes, my life has been much better. If you experience headaches, diarrhea, constipation, please stop using Heroes of Storm. Heroes of Storm causes erection lasting more than 4 hours. Please no.
Well, speaking of...
For real, though, I like it a
What's
much
new
better.
with you, buddy? What's new with you in gaming?
I played Overwatch this weekend. Other than that, I haven't really been to... I've been playing a lot of Clash Royale.
Oh, my God.
Dakota set up the Clash Royale clan. He was completely inept at trying to get an actual clan started. But now it's in my control where I'm able to vote, like, he's kind of our Queen Elizabeth, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, he's our figurehead of the clan. He's the leader, but he doesn't do anything.
He also paid for it, so he's like the CFO.
That's goddamn right. I'm the fucking money maker. I'm the breadwinner in this relationship.
His title is leader, but he literally, the only thing that he can do that I can't do now in the clan is kick me.
Yeah.
Like...
Well, my Google full failed me, man. Mitch, every time you ask me how to do something, what do I tell you? Just go fucking Google it. That's what I would do. And I Googled how to invite other people to the clan, and the link I found is like, nope, you can't do it. It's got these limitations. So I told Chris, you're shit out of luck. And then he comes back, he goes, well, I just Googled it, and I found a different answer. Give me the damn clan. So he figured it out.
So if anybody wants to join us who's listening, Clanalog Stick. Clanalog Space Stick. Join our clan. We got like 10 people in it.
There wasn't enough room for radio. That's the only reason why radio's not on the ass end. Well, speaking of awful communities, this is a skipping Chris's segment segue, going from what Mitch said. I wanted to say off the top of the show that just apologies to the 3.5 listeners that we have on Twitch. I am not reading Twitch. You can fuck off for now, and I only say that for one reason: Uncharted 4. I don't want any motherfuck in Twitch chat coming in and spoiling Uncharted 4 for me. So Twitch chat is closed. I cannot see if you're talking to us. So sorry, and thanks for hanging out. Uncharted 4 is with us, so I'm stoked. I haven't begun playing it yet. So that's in my immediate future with gaming this week.
Did you finish 1, 2, or 3?
I did not. No, that's not true. I beat 1. And I played like 90% of 2, and I didn't play 3. And, I was listening to the Kind of Funny PlayStation podcast, and Colin Moriarty just said today, on today's episode, don't play the 4th until you beat the first 3. You're doing yourself a disservice. And while I respect his opinion quite a great deal, I'm not going to fucking go find my PlayStation 3 and play. I think my PlayStation 3 is in my work office. It is. It's in the work office plugged into a TV at work. I'm not going in there and bringing it back. Maybe I'll watch some stuff.
That's just too much work, man.
It is. I just want to play a new game. I don't want to play the new game. I also wanted to mention that This Thursday, March 12th, the same day that this podcast will hit iTunes feed. So if you're not watching it live, what's up?
May 12th.
May 12th.
March.
It's not March anymore.
March. May 12th. May 12th. In 2 days from today's recording, I'm going to be on Sony San Diego Studios Twitch channel playing some video games with them. So come check us out, 7 p.m.
What game are you going to be playing?
We're going to be playing Kill Strain. It's a free-to-play title coming from Sony for the PlayStation 4. It's kind of got some MOBA elements. I mentioned it on the show. And I'll be honest, like, it's not the greatest game I've ever played, but I think it's quite good. And it's a lot of fun. It's got a very unique mechanic to it that kind of makes it stand out from other games I've played. And if you want to check it out, we're showcasing the new tutorial mode. They're kind of trying to bring in new players and teach them the ropes. So 7 p.m. twitch.tv/Sony San Diego Studio. No S.
No S.
That's it for me this week.
All right, guys. Well, we talked about what we've done, this week in gaming. Let's move on to the main topic because we got a doozy here. All right. So today we got a bit of a topic here, and what we're going to be talking about is religion in gaming. Now, I just said the R word, so before we move on any further,
that's racist.
I know.
Different word.
I know. Yeah, the wrong R word. But just so you know, we're not experts on religion by any means. We do not think that anything we have to say about them is like telling of what you should do with your life or anything like that, or how you feel about your religion is how you feel, and we're not trying to sway anybody in any direction, bash any religion, lift up any other religion, or anything like that. We're just three regular dudes, and we just want to talk about it and figure it all out. We have no fucking idea what we're doing. So if you can still take it offensively if you like, but that is your choice, not ours.
Sounds delightful.
So let's move on. So let's just break it down. Instead of breaking it down first, because we all know what religion is at this point. I don't need to explain that to any of you. I hope.
What is it?
Let's just talk about some of our favorite uses of religion in gaming, because it actually happens quite often in games.
Very often.
Really, really prominent or just kind of like hinted at. It happens fairly frequently. I'll start it off. One of my favorite of all time, granted it's one of my favorite games of all time, is in Final Fantasy X. Mm-hmm. When they have like the teachings of Yevon, and they have all these little temples, and they're kind of like praying to Yevon, and these priests have to go around and like make a pilgrimage every like 1,000 years or something like that, or every 100 years or whatever. It's just like it's like really a really intense religion, but I like the way that they do it in the game because you also don't care about the religion like at all. Like you take the place of this person that is kind of looking on the outside of it, not really knowing what's going on. And so you're just slowly piecing it together. It's very interesting religion.
Definitely.
Dakota, what about you? Any good religious aspects of games?
Yeah, that's definitely on my list, but I'll talk about that later when we go a little deeper, using it as an example, because that game is as near to my heart as it is to yours. I think we've talked about our shared love for FF10. I also the immediate ones that came to mind were Binding of Isaac. It's a very obvious religious allusions in that game, and that game's all about kind of finding the humor in some of the darker aspects of religion in a poor upbringing, not necessarily related, or maybe it's kind of just up to what Ed McMillen wants to tell you through his game. So I enjoy Binding of Isaac for that reason. And then kind of a sillier one, Fallout 3. You remember in the first town they had the dudes that worship the atom bomb. Mitch is holding his hands up. You haven't played that game, right? Yeah, Chris, you remember?
Fuck that game.
Church of the Atom. So they worship this atom bomb that they basically built their whole city around, and kind of just revered it in its ability to change the world, because we're living in, of course, a post-apocalyptic world with Fallout 3. So those were some that came to mind. What about you, Chris?
I really enjoyed, I guess I'll bring it up again later. I really enjoyed the use of religious symbols and things in Bayonetta. That game is all around good because of the fantastical way they went about using the idea of angels and demons and they had 3 areas. They of Paradiso or something, and that was supposed to be heaven, the Inferno, which was kind of like the
Which
hell
one's
area.
that? Where's that? Oh, okay.
sets down at the bottom with the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then Purgatorio, which is like purgatory. So it had the 3 different zones.
Subtle.
And like the witches were from, very subtle. That's why everything in that game was so like way out in your face. And like you fought angels weren't necessarily good. They were kind of bad. Like it was just a very interesting take on what you normally consider, because we see a lot of the use of like Western religion ideas and kind of symbols and things, but they did something really weird with it, and I liked the way they did it.
Sure.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a strange game just in general. So
yeah, it's so good.
It makes sense that the religious aspect of it is also fucking insane. So, all right. So let's talk about why are these religious elements in the game? Like, what purpose do they serve these games? Because I feel like a lot of times we're going to see it almost as like just like a little bit of a side theme throughout the game. That's kind of, Dakota, you can attest to this. It's kind of like what it is in Final Fantasy X. Like it's not really the main part of the game. It's just kind of this almost like this thing that helps guide you through the world.
Yeah.
I mean,
it depends on how you look at it. I mean, I might take a different perspective. I think that it's very integral to the narrative of the game. It has nothing to do with the mechanics, though, right? It's just fully about the background, the backdrop, or the setting. But I think go ahead, Chris.
For some games, it's a bit different. I think definitely.
Yeah, it can definitely be different. That you were going to say that's an example of like a side theme. What else came to mind, Mitch?
My idea for a side, like for the main theme, like I mentioned, Bayonetta is kind of like the main theme. It's the backdrop of the whole story. For some games, such as I can't remember, but even for like Skyrim, right? I feel like religion is used less in the religious sense of faith and like trying to have a moral character. It's created in a way that's mechanical, as it could be it's utilitarian for the player.
Okay.
It's like anytime in a game that has like a religious belief, that religious belief can be used as magic. Like it's like you go to the temple to learn holy spells, or you go to like the Daedric people or the druids or whatever to learn the nature spells. And all of the times that you're using religion, you're not basing your characters on their belief in the religion. You're utilizing the powers that you gain. And it's not really religion at that point. It's this very strange relationship that I feel like video games have not yet captured what religion really means, at least the ones I've played.
The extra credit guy said that religion can be used in 3 ways in gaming: in a mechanical sense, which I think is what you're talking about, in a lore sense, and you get a little bit of that with Skyrim. You've got the pantheon, and the gods do have like story and character, and then the third way would be faith or belief, the actual kind of core, actual tenets of religion aside from just the stories.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a one that maybe. I don't know. I didn't watch their videos, but I'd imagine that's a way that I haven't seen it actually used, kind of. And I'm not talking about faith like sticking straight to the religious teachings of whatever it's referencing, or even if it makes up its own religion. But in gaming, I feel like religion is either used as a lore, I guess, like they said, as a background to use. In Tales of Symphonia, there was a big thing about your main character was trying to help this other girl who's like supposed to be this prophet of some kind, and that was what was driving the story. It was used as a lore, but at no point was the faith central to your character, where that makes you kind of challenge your own choices. Like you're kind of doing it to push the girl along in the story, but you're not really reflecting on that in the way that religion is supposed to make people do it
in real life.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think kind of what you're saying, one of the reasons I have listed is immersion, lore. Religion is probably the most like ubiquitous, like common element of culture that we have in the world. Every culture has some sort of faith or belief system that kind of binds them and guides their peoples. And so including religion in a video game is a very easy way for storytellers to create like a touchstone for players to, to identify with. Even if they're not religious themselves, they can see religion in a game and it reminds them of reality because we're surrounded by it.
Right. It's also used. It's used in like a bunch of other like really weird ways too. Like if you think about, almost like think about like World of Warcraft, right? And like how religion is used in World of Warcraft. Like you have like priests, right? Like holy priests, and like the concept of holy damage to me, like it's kind of strange because it's almost like in the midst of this like whatever, like there's 10 classes or whatever. So like in the midst of these like 10 classes, you almost have like these two types of damage that have like religion tied to them, but also have almost nothing to do with religion. Like the fact that holy damage deals extra to undead. It's almost like the holy light of like a Christian religion or a Catholic religion, like cleansing the unclean of some sort. And it's like that has nothing to do with anything else in the WoW like world. It's just there as like a skill set.
Some lore nerds would tell us like exactly what it means as far as like relation to the Naru and the light as it's described in the World of Warcraft universe. But it is a kind of a weird disconnect though, where when we see somebody cast Smite, right, that the priest spell in WoW, Smite, it's just a nuke. It does holy damage as you pointed out, but that just the word, right? It kind of communicates meaning to you as a white man who's probably surrounded by Christianity or Judeo-Christianity in America. Smiting means God in a way, right? But there's no God in World of Warcraft.
It sends your mind to think about like Christianity, to think about God and that whole aspect.
That kind of speaks again back to it. Games mostly use religion as a way for the character to manipulate it. And that isn't the point of religion. It isn't the point. Like the character isn't being manipulated by religion. It isn't manipulating the religion. It's supposed to be a way for the character to find themselves connected with another world. And that's something that I feel games have not yet been able to reach. Like WoW, other games like that where you're creating a Smite, like you said. You're invoking the image of like a god or something, like hitting it, but you're imbuing that power to a person. That isn't something natural. It almost reminds me of like in games that do have religion. It reminds me of the morality system in like a lot of the BioWare games. Like it's like, oh, you could be a good guy or an evil guy or a neutral guy, but all that is at the end of the day is it's boiling down your choices, your analog wheel. Like, oh, the top is the good, the middle is the gray, and the bottom is the bad. Like, it doesn't really represent the full breadth of what a person is. In the same way that describing a religion especially through the use of like abilities doesn't describe what the religion is. It can't possibly explain the differences and the feelings that you get out of it. It's too, and I think that has to do with the way that programmers can't possibly think of all the ways that they could be interacting with the character. They program a certain number of interactions, and they can't possibly think of like the supernatural, the weird, not necessarily the weird, but the elements that could come from a religious belief, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just the concept of holy damage to me just kind of, it's always something that's confused me in WoW, is like to what it's supposed to represent in that world, right? Like, am I supposed to think that the humans, right? Because like, I mean, I guess because like a paladin could even be like a Draenei, right? So what is a Draenei paladin doing with holy damage? Like, where is his holy damage coming from? Like, from a human, I can.
You want me to answer you, or do you want me to kind of speculate with you? Because I mean, I think I know the answers to these questions.
Oh, okay,
at least.
Well, because like my thought process here is, I can understand the holy damage coming from a human because that's supposed to remind me of like you said, like Judeo-Christianity, and like, oh, okay, so he's conjuring like this humanistic god's power to like smite this person. But like, what is a Draenei doing with it? Where the hell is that coming from?
And I think it's coming from the Naru. And the way that, and this is true of like all these fictional religions, the way that fictional religions differ from religion in real life is that there are, and I don't mean to be offensive here, so I'm going to like try to explain myself, but in a video game, you've got, you've got real instances of fantastical stuff happening. For instance, miracles, like and not like rare miracles that you might hear happened in real life, like once upon a time or something. Actual miracles happening constantly. How many times does somebody cast Flash Heal in a raid, right? Like true magic is something that exists in fantasy. In it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And so, like, for your example, like when a paladin casts a holy spell in WoW, it's kind of almost so commonplace that maybe the impact or the gravitas of the fact that that power is supposed to come from a deity is lost. But like, if you think about what it's actually trying to represent, it's trying to represent miracles and a power that comes from a creator, a being of a higher power. And that is just what, Christianity is all about. It's just, it's less tangible because we don't see miracles. At least most of us don't see miracles in our day-to-day lives, like we might in the world of Warcraft.
To further that, to go back to kind of what Mitch was saying, specifically about why he doesn't think he can't he can't associate himself with a Draenei or whatever, getting these like powers. I think in WoW, a lot of things in games we try and use as symbols for other things. In WoW, the characters themselves, like those races, it's not a whole, you can't think of it as a whole other like animal or creature. That's what it is in the game. But if you think about it in a certain way of like other countries of people and other cultures being converted, for instance, like the trolls, they do what is considered like kind of a stereotypical voodoo thing, which is also I don't want to touch on it, but how we Westerners, the voodoo is a whole other thing. We've kind of like polluted the idea of voodoo through racist stereotyping as a kind of like exotic thing. And that's kind of translated also to the way we create games. Like the character always uses the voodoo stuff, is always like this weird thing, and that's like a special kind of magic that they can only do certain things with, and it comes from like the primitive lands.
But it's like, just really their faith,
for, right? Like the spiritual need that it is. So when you see a Draenei coming in using holy whatever, along with, you could think of that as like maybe someone like a convert from an Asian country or something. You know what I mean? In a different way. You think of the races as actual like different cultures of people. So I
guess I can kind of see that.
In Warcraft, that makes a little bit of sense. Yeah, so like dwarves and the humans, they're like different cultures, but all under the same kind of religion, utilizing it. The way it's used in the game, that's a whole different topic. But coming from why these different, that's how I think games use these, like what Dakota was saying. Every culture in the world has a religion. So if we're able to go back and somehow, create some kind of religious idea, even if it doesn't make a lot of sense. And a lot of games don't make a lot of references. Even if they do reference a game references like a god or something, they don't go into the religious aspect. Just like, hey, I won't do it because, God will beat me. Like, I'm afraid of God. We're a God-loving family or something. And they're just like, oh, okay, so this world believes in religion, and that's it. They'll touch on that. That's added for lore, for world building.
Yeah. For sure. Another way that I see religion used is just as kind of like artistic expression of the creator. And this is when I was going to mention Binding of Isaac, Mitch. Is Binding of Isaac is just a personal story. Like that game is just Ed telling you what he wants to tell you about religion and kind of upbringing, a dark child upbringing.
Right, yeah.
And so it has very obvious like negative connotations towards Christianity specifically. And that's just because that's the game maker telling you what he wants to tell you. He's just talking to you through his art. And so in that way, it's a really good example of games being art and just acting as kind of a medium for the creator to tell you something. You guys played the shit out of that game, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, I guess it is mockery. There's a lot of mockery of the religion.
There is,
and it, some people can take that as a bad thing, but I don't know. I mean, I grew up Christian, so for me it was more just like another take on it, because I can understand how like one religion can just not be for everybody. So I mean, it makes sense that he tells you this take in the way that he wants to, and that's. But God, man, it just. Yeah. It comes right at Christianity.
With, he said in
no holding back nothing.
Right.
I feel like that's a aspect of Western developers, right? Because we have such like a lot of our culture is so tied into those Western ideas of Christianity, of Judeo-Christian beliefs and Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and things like that. So we come at almost in a way that some people want to rebel against that idea and kind of take the foundations of our culture and kind of go against the grain and see. And he tells that story really well his own way of kind of like flipping it and showing like a darker side of what is culturally held beliefs.
Right. He himself, he grew up in a very religious household where he was divided in two. One side were a Catholic, so they had the very traditional like Catholic grandmother. He says had the magical abilities to bless them safe travels when they went. She would like kiss her, saint whatever, gold chain and all that traditional Catholicism stuff. And on the other side, I think it's his dad's side, they were born again Christian, and he had a very negative experience with them, saying he said that he was constantly shamed and told he was going to go to hell for playing Magic the Gathering and stuff like that, Mitch. He said in a post-mortem, he went in wanting to talk to the player about religion in a manner that he was comfortable with, and that's dark humor and satire. So he chose to tell his story.
Magic the Gathering.
Magic.
At the devil's poker.
At the devil.
I actually got chastised for wanting to play Warcraft as a Christian as well, just because of like the heavy like demon and angel aspects of that game. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, very dark. Very dark. Kind of similarly to artistic expression, or maybe it's the same thing. Another way that it shows up in gaming religion, that is criticism. It gives a game maker the opportunity to kind of maybe criticize religion, and this is where I had Final Fantasy, Mitch. I think it's quite strong in its themes of anti-establishment. The whole notion of the game is that, as you said, you're kind of the outsider of this faith, and like the protagonist, the crux of the hero's journey is to defy the traditions of the world and in doing so, like, risk the very existence of the planet. And he wants to defy the faith like that all of Spira's inhabitants place in the pilgrimage and the cycle of sin. And he's the only one willing to do it because he does have that outsider perspective. So in that way, it's very much like a fuck you to the man. They're not very subtle either. Pilgrimage, sin, all that stuff. The bad guy. His name is Sin.
The antagonist's name is Sin. Like
it's a big monster.
Like throwing up the hair. Like, that's what this is.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of related to criticism and Ed McMillen and Binding of Isaac. Do you guys think that faiths can be like affected by video games, either in a positive way or a negative way? What do you think?
Of these games putting off those kind of people, like I would never imagine an evangelical to play Bayonetta approvingly for many reasons. Religious believers, any kind of depiction of their faith in any kind of way is sacrilege, right? Like it's
usually
unacceptable in any way. So I could see a lot of these games putting off those kind of people. Like I would never imagine an evangelical to play Bayonetta approvingly for many reasons.
Well, that's not even just a religious thing. That's anybody,
really. I don't want to expect a lot of people to play that approvingly. But as a faith, what I think is really interesting. It's a good question. What I think is really interesting is that in the 60s and in 50s, 40s, when a lot of Americans came back from the war and everybody was really big into the community, at least white America was, and they were really getting big into their religion again. They had a lot of religious communities together. The religious community has declined over the years by a large margin, and religions are trying to cling and trying to grasp back those young, churchgoers, trying to pull together those groups.
Right.
What I think video games do, this has nothing really to do with, not nothing to do with religion, but I think that video games almost, especially now that since we have a lot of these online communities, they get to fill a void left by the collapse of religious communities. Because a lot of young people don't have any community to go to anymore. I mean, this isn't only video game. Like, obviously, there's a lot more out there than the realm of gaming. But online communities, that's a community of people who can get together with some kind of, form of community and come together in a way that they haven't been able to since these declines of the churches. Should they be in church instead? I have no answer for this, but I feel like gaming in general fills a certain void left in at least American culture.
Right. Yeah.
In some kind of weird way. I
was reading an article in the Huffington Post by a woman who's a devout Christian and is not a gamer by any means. She even says it in the article, but she does talk about the positive effects of video games and how they almost like correlate to religion, and that they share a mutual end goal to offer a healing alternative to our broken world. And so that they kind of like work together in that way. They take you out of the world that you're in and kind of put you in the world of whatever you're playing. Whether it's Uncharted and you want to, run around fighting bad guys and finding relics and stuff like that, or you want to play World of Warcraft and you want to be a holy Draenei and smite raid bosses and shit. Like, it doesn't matter. It's getting you out of whatever fucked up broken shit you're in this weird world that we live in. So I can see how it could. But so my thought here is, I don't think it would strengthen your faith. If anything, it would almost make it worse, because you're getting the same effect that faith was having for you from something that has nothing to do with your faith.
I mean, in your example in particular, that might be downplaying the impact of religion on the way you view the world. It's kind of like gaming is kind of just like a way to release your mind kind of from the day to day, while religion is a way to view the day to day.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, I can definitely see how you look at it. I think it varies from person to person. I think some people use it as a way to view their day to day, and some people use it as an escape from their day to day. I think it has multiple ways of being looked at.
Yeah, definitely. Really, it has a lot of different ways. Like I understand. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, and I mean, but I guess that's my thought. So in your question, Dakota, do I think faith can be faith can be strengthened? Wow, dyslexia just happened in real time. Can faith be strengthened through gaming? I would argue that, and I don't think it would. Like I said, if anything, I feel like, and I think this is the reason that it's frowned upon in a lot of religions, I feel like that it almost pulls you away from your faith, because it's, I guess, attempting to pseudo do what you're trying to do in religion. And it's going to kind of give you the same feeling, at least, that religion would give you. But like I said, it has nothing to do with it. Dakota, yeah. We've been talking a lot. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm fascinated. I didn't have much to say on this topic. I'm glad you guys did. I don't know. I did catch that same article that you did, and so I acknowledge that, that author did see true value in video games as far as maintaining the faith. It's going to depend. You have the opportunity when you've got basically authors of pieces of fiction creating, whatever they want to create in their game and presenting it to a bunch of people, that those works are going to, speak to people in a way that's either for or against religion, at least in the games that we're talking about, like Binding of Isaac, where, if you've got some kid who's been struggling with his faith and he sees kind of, he sees something of himself in the story, then that is probably going to have a negative effect on his own faith. Alternatively, you might have similar situations with opposite examples. As you said, though, Mitch, probably far fewer of those, because right. Typically, there's kind of an element of counterculture that makes for a more interesting narrative, I guess. I don't think a lot of people are looking at Skyrim and the Pantheon when they tech their blacksmithing skills on the blacksmith's constellation and going, yeah, Jesus is cool. I don't think that's right. Probably not happening so often. I did read a really interesting example, though, from Fallout New Vegas, actually. There's a particular quest line called Honest Hearts, and it's about Mormonism. It's all about this group of characters, but in particular this one character, a Mormon, who goes through this arc, this really cool story arc. And I read a bit by a Mormon who wrote up an article for Kotaku, I believe, and he was talking about appreciating the representation of his own faith in this game, in Fallout, because it's so goddamn rare that he finds what he perceived as fair or accurate representations of Mormonism in fiction of any kind. And so he was really stoked to see it. And even though the characters involved, like the main character, the main focal point of the quest line is a bad guy. He's a villain. He kills people, but he's also a Mormon. But you get to see this really cool arc that he felt like reflected the Mormon values in a very, very true way. And so in that way, there can be examples that kind of where you get the little chest bump and peace sign to your faith and say, yeah, some people, are producing works that are positive in light with regards to a particular faith.
But if you think about it, most of the times it's kind of like poking fun at religion. Maybe not in like a harsh way, like Binding of Isaac, but even if you just think about I'm thinking about it more as we're like talking, and the idea of holy damage, it's almost like taking, like you said, it's like taking the religious aspect of that lightly. It's like, oh, we're gonna smite a demon with this.
I mean, they do
it's
that.
Boiling everything down to that one core thing. It almost like desensitizes you to just religion as a whole.
That has to do with the way that you are a gamer, like with your position in the game, where you are the main focus of the game. Like, this isn't only simply like a holy damage, like a Christian kind of thing. This happens, you could think about God of War, right? Yeah. We take God of War for an example, where you're literally taking a god and destroying it. It's just a giant punching bag, right? Mm-hmm. Like, in Greek mythology, the gods did actually come down and interact. Most gods aren't even in a physical form. In Greek mythology, they did come down and interact with people. So there's at least that. But got
that cow sex on.
Exactly. The mere idea that a human is able to destroy all these things, like, and that's another thing.
It's just still laughing at Papa Zeus's cow sex. Zeus was the man,
South.
Dude.
It shouldn't be that funny to you, Mitch. But we I lost my train of thought now.
It's all right. Pick it back up.
That's more than just gaming. It's kind of a cultural thing. Like, we devalue the idea of Greek. It's Greek mythology. I find it really interesting that a lot of Japanese-based games view Christianity and Western religions in the same way that Western religions view Greek and Egyptian mythology. We just
think it's fantasy.
Where it's just straight fantasy. And I really enjoyed that like Bayonetta, for instance. I'm going to use that again because it's such a good example.
No, it's a great example.
I'm going to use another example as well. I could also use Tales of Symphonia, other ones from Asia, where they use a lot of our mythology in ways that, like, they only focus on, like, the demons and the angels and, like, the stories between that and, like, kind of the symbolism in a way that isn't about the faith. It's about the interesting interpretation of the writings from the faith.
Right.
And
that's the same way. Think about Final Fantasy. Like, you summon these giant fucking, like, demon angel pseudo deities. Like, you summon Bahamut, and he's like a
Bahamut, Tiamat, Shiva. They're all gods in other cultures.
All gods, yeah. And then we just like summon them like they're nothing. Like, what up?
But you summon them and you have no idea. Like, that's why religion, I don't know, it's kind of used as a way to use the game. The game
it's a very shallow exploration of the religion. All they're using in that case is, Shiva looks cool. Let's throw her in her basically just her appearance in the game.
Right. Yeah. They also, like, if you think about it, games also use, if you just think about, like, not just like a specific religion, but just the idea of religion in general, it's almost like gaming, like, text likes to poke fun at it. Like, if you think about, like, the idea of a cultist, right? That's essentially a religion. Like, they're part of a cult, but it's to them, it's a religion. And in every game that you play with a cultist, usually they're kind of like a bad guy, but only because they're in a cult, like, for no real other reason.
That's the reason. Like, that's kind of also, I think it's a Western idea, like going to paganism. Paganism being a religion that's not kind of in in cahoots with the major religions of the culture, right? And that goes to the paganism of kind of like the way we tend to have religion is viewed as in dogmatic ways in the religious culture, like where you have to follow these certain laws that can't be broken. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. I forgot my words. But keep going.
I just it's a very it's like a very broad, even like paganistic. It's just like if you think about like BioShock Infinite. Like those are cultists. Those people in what is it called? The place fucking
I can't remember.
I forget what the place is called.
I can't remember.
I'm losing whatever that it's something really simple too, and it's pissing me off that I can't remember it. But basically, the people that live in this city, they're all cultists of this religion that this gentleman Comstock has come up with. Columbia, thank you. Something very simple. I knew it. They're all like cultists of this religion, and so it's almost seemed as like a negative thing. But if you really like if you look at the game, and you kind of like look at it not in the sense of like you're trying to accomplish the end goal, you're just trying to like examine this culture from an outside perspective. They're not really doing anything wrong. There's nothing evil or bad about this religion at all. Yet they're still like the antagonist, and it's I don't know, it was strange. Like one of the things I loved about a BioShock Infinite, it was like almost like surreal walking through that city.
This is kind of a way you mentioned. I remember kind of back on track what I was talking about.
You found it.
Yeah, I found it. So the idea is that we boil these things down into what we what we think that they're meaning by these, and kind of twisting it. So for instance, I was talking about paganism because that reminded me, I wrote this note down because I mentioned how Japanese game developers kind of, started, we mentioned in our RPG versus JRPG, it came to me in an epiphany. I was like, oh, since we're creating RPGs at different times and kind of creating different various stories, the JRPG had these vast novels, these vast narrative experiences. So they're able to throw in a lot of these interesting, like, Western religious ideas kind of mixing with those games' faith. Like you'd go into a church to get your character healed, stuff like that. You'd have like a main character as a sacrifice, out of Jesus.
Right.
And there was their idea. Meanwhile, in the Western version, we didn't go to the main religions. And this is back like a long time ago when we're trying to go into these fantasy worlds. I think that our idea was we went more towards the paganism ideas. And that's why we got the ideas of like magic users, like summoning the elements of fire and water and ice and things. So we're kind of taking what we think of these other like spiritual, more based religions and trying to build it in that way. And instead of like putting it into the story, we're utilizing it as they would utilize what we'd imagine utilizing, like the totems and things like that.
So
you're boiling it down to like it's core
of what you could see on the outside, as opposed to the belief.
Like a very topical, like surface examination of a religion. So suffice it to say, Chris, you don't think that religion has been like sufficiently depicted, I guess, in video games, kind of bastardized in a way,
like to the full extent of itself.
I don't think. Well, this is kind of a weird thing. Like I'm like an atheist, like a full-on atheist. I'm not a Reddit atheist.
Oh, we're doing this. We're going to talk about what we actually are.
No, I'm just kind of I'm putting this out. This is as a full disclosure. So whatever I say, this is coming from. I'm trying to get you in my mindset when I look at this.
All right, I respect it.
So I'm not a Reddit atheist where I'm not putting down other religions. Like I'm not like looking up Raptor Jesus and that's my background image.
Did you unsubscribe to /
Yeah, I did.
Oh God, yes, okay. Long ago.
So, God, so I view, when I say I agree with your assumption, Dakota, that I don't feel like a religion has been fully, fleshed out in a video game sense. But that's coming from my perspective where I don't have a belief at all.
Okay.
But I can imagine the idea of what a belief is for those people who follow these doctrines, and not just following the doctrines to the T and like doing the rules, but understanding it as a meaning to them, as a way to use religion to view their lives through this religious lens. I don't think that a game can capture what that is in any way. It has done it yet. I think they can do it I
disagree.
how.
I completely disagree. I don't think they can. As you like, listen to what you're saying. Like, there's so much, and a religion at its core is supposed to be like, I guess for most of them at least, like a spiritual connection with whatever you believe in. Like, it's supposed to be person to person. So how are you going to program that, right? Like, it's going to be extremely difficult. I mean, and you're also gonna offend somebody.
Well,
somewhere.
I mean, I guess
somebody's always offended by something.
Yeah,
like
we've offended like 45 people already.
Right.
Well, that's really generous.
That's like 95% of our listeners, man. I don't know if I agree with that sentiment, though, Chris.
For putting up with us, making fun of your small numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
We think you're big within your small numbers, though.
No, you're big to us. You're big to us. It's a big 45. It's a big 45.
Well, no, if 45 is 95%, then there's probably like, what, 50, 52?
50. Very well-grown audience. So, I don't know, Chris, or Mitch, I disagree with the sentiment that just because there's a lot of depth and gravitas to religion that it can't ever possibly be, represented or communicated or whatever in a video game. Only because I would say like romance or love or true inspiration or a lot of wonderful things in life are able to be communicated through fiction. I mean, books, movies, video games even. And I don't think that religion is exempt from that. But I do agree with you guys insofar that I haven't been swept off my feet by any representation of religion in a video game thus far, at least.
I will say this. I think that any game that tries to do it will be super boring. I'm gonna throw it up there. I think that game would suck. I don't want to play that game. They're just putting it out there right now. That is not a day one buy.
Yeah. Well, so before we move on to the Metabet, did you guys want to mention any like before we move on games that you found particularly of note with religion that we may have missed?
Well, Chris and I played the Jesus Christ RPG.
Oh yeah,
and that was
fantastic.
Very, very well done for representing religion in a video game.
I'm not sure if you're being sarcastic or not. I can't tell.
I'm being extremely sarcastic.
Okay.
My sarcasm levels, like what the scouter says about my sarcasm.
That's a good deadpan. It was a really good deadpan.
That's how he gets me every day.
I get it with that literally all the. That's my religion right there. Is getting Chris with deadpan bullshit.
Man. And I get so pissed. I'm like, how can you think that? And then I'm like, oh, he doesn't.
Oh.
And I usually have this face right here. You can't see it, but this is the face that I have.
I'm gonna go back to the BioShock series.
Yes.
I love the way they take the idea of especially the second one, man. The second Infinite, rather, not BioShock 2.
So
but Infinite. You guys mentioned a little bit. I want to go back, like how much they hit that Americana, like Puritanism, like completely devout without like manipulating the idea of what religion is. That shows how dark it could go. Like I love the way that it kind of. That was a game, like I said when I talked about it before. They tried to do so much. They tried to hit, they tried to hit. Cults, they tried to hit bad, government styles. They tried to hit so much stuff, man. If they would have just picked one and gone into it, it would have been fantastic. But the parts in there that they had,
fantastic.
It was still good. It was
so immersive.
Yeah, that was actually a case where people kind of really misinterpreted what that game was going for with the religion. Like people thought that they were just mocking like Christianity and like this like Baptistic like style, and it really wasn't mocking it at all. It was kind of just like saying exactly what you said, like this is how dark it can get, like these are the extremists of that religion, here's what it kind of looks like. Everybody was like, oh, this is what he thinks of like Christianity. People were like begging for refunds for this game, all sorts of stuff.
I think to try to reduce Ken Levine's writing as just some like shallow mockery is doing a huge disservice to him. That dude is a fucking brilliant writer, in my opinion. I think he's got some of, if not the best, video game writing around. He and Neil Druckmann, the dude that does Last of Us and Uncharted, those guys, they write some shit in a good way.
Well,
I
think it was the forced baptism that really kind of threw people for. Threw people for a loop there. They were like, did I just really get baptized in a video game? Like, holy shit.
They're fighting it. So, all right, guys, if we don't have anything else on the old religion, listeners, thanks for putting us with us ignorant duders.
Yeah,
just
this
rambling.
is something we talked about in briefly in our Christmas episode, and we just really want to kind of have an episode talking about maybe this isn't as fun as our other ones, but I had fun talking about it.
Well, I had a great time. Like we all had like a really good, a lot of things to say about it, a lot more than we thought we were going to. But the hard part about this conversation topic is you kind of have to skirt around the edges of it. You don't really want to say anything because you don't want to piss anybody off. I mean, I don't mind.
It's not so much that I don't want to piss anybody. It's because I have no idea.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to seem as ignorant as I am. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm very ignorant.
Well, that also. I mean,
that
ignorance
too.
pisses people off too. So.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go. Let's go. Something more fun. Let's do the Metabet. Woo!
Yeah.
All right, guys. For those that don't know, Metabet is the game where we bet on the Metacritic score of an upcoming video game. Quickly, we will recap last week. Last week, if you weren't around, we all suffered. Usually, the winner assigns the two losers a stipulation, but whenever Dakota fucks up the scoring or something, then we all get to have fun together in a game.
Wait a minute. Why are we suffering? Dakota fucks up. Like, why?
Yeah.
I'm just realizing the way you phrased that. Why do we suffer when you fuck up?
I think, I think choosing Battleborn was the correct choice as far as an interesting game to pick. And they fucked up by not putting their servers up in time for reviewing outlets to give reviews. So they fucked up. We
developers should have done the Metabet, then, is what I'm saying.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody on the Battleborn development team listening right now, but you guys done fucked up.
Fucked up, and now you get a Metabet.
Now, I know this is a bit of a tangent, but I can't remember what we did bet, but let's go ahead and look up the Battleborn score now that we can. We couldn't look it up last week because there weren't any scores up because the servers weren't up. Now that the servers are up, based on 23 critic reviews, it has a score of 72, quite low. I'm
pretty sure I was on the low end of that one.
Yeah, I think we did estimate quite low.
I think I was on the lowest end of that one. I'm trying to look it up.
Mitch
right now,
is looking it up right now.
Yeah, I want to see if I was at a 79.
All right.
Dakota was at an 80, and Chris was at an 83. So goodbye.
Mitch would have won. Too bad. Doesn't count. We all played Overwatch together. That's what happened. And we did a bit of so for those that don't know, Overwatch is a first-person team-based tactical shooter coming out for all the platforms except for Wii in 2 weeks' time. It's kind of got a TF2 vibe. If you've played that, there's 21 different characters you can play as who all have different abilities and movement styles, et cetera, et cetera. And a cool thing that the developers did was that for each character, you can track very specific stats. So, you're playing everybody, you're going to track headshots, kills, assists, the typical first-person shooter stuff. But if you're playing, for instance, the guy that can throw a hook out and pull people towards him, hook accuracy is an extra statistic that you can track when you're playing him. Mm-hmm. So we did a little world tour and played 6 different characters. We all played the same character in each round.
Little triple threat,
and we compared each other's statistics for a particular stat for each character. So hook accuracy, for example. Dakota is the boss dog with hook accuracy. I won that round.
Yeah, you did win that round.
I did win that round, but out of 6 rounds, Mitch won 3 of them. He swept half them up, so Mitch did win. Yeah. Chris had 2, and the hook accuracy round was the only one that I actually did.
It's the only one that you won. That was a lot of fun. A couple of them were relatively difficult. When we all did the what's the guy with the balls? I can't remember all the names. Zenyatta. When we did the triple Zenyatta round, that one was relatively difficult.
It was, healing with our ults.
Yeah.
But since there were 3 Zenyatas, we died so fast, so we weren't able to get a full heal out of
it was pretty bad.
Or we kept everybody fully healed because we were 3 fucking Zenyatas.
Yeah, and we're like fighting over heals, trying to edge each other out to try to get closer to the team to heal. I'm sure our teammates were none too happy, although a few of the rounds, all 3 of us picked a character, and then other people on our team picked the same character too. They're like, oh yeah, we're all doing it. Let's all do it.
Our first round was all Soldier 76 round, and that was some of the most fun I've had.
Yeah,
the 3 of us picked Soldier 76, and then the other 3 randoms just were like, fuck it, all Soldier 76, I'm on board.
And we won.
We were on defense on Gibraltar. They had to push like a payload through the map. We held them. They did not get past the second checkpoint.
Right.
Like, they didn't even get to the first checkpoint, actually.
No, they were right there at base.
We completely crushed them.
Yeah,
that was a fun round.
That was a good Metabet. We do have footage, which I will slap chop together. A lot of fun, man. I can't wait. 2 weeks, Overwatch. All right, so last week for the Metabet, we bet on Uncharted 4 for the PlayStation 4. It was officially released today. To recap the scores from peakest to weakest, I was up top with 95. Chris in the man witch, not the money position, with 90, and Mitch down low with 85. Today, the day release based on 84 critic reviews, Uncharted 4 has a Metacritic score of 94, making me the winner. 94, way up top.
Oh, you cut out for a second. I just heard 90.
Oh, no. Believe in
believe I was being a skeptic.
Oh God, I'm telling you, man, Naughty Dog is 94. It's
94. Wow.
It's being heralded as the greatest game for PlayStation 4. One of the greatest games. A lot of people are saying almost as good as The Last of Us, not quite, but almost there.
I still haven't played this game, Eric. You fucking ass.
Yeah, we need to fix that, man. We just need to fix that. So I won. You guys lost. What are you guys playing?
I'm definitely not playing League of Legends this week, so I'm just gonna let you know now.
Maybe you need to play some Heroes of the Storm. Maybe you need a retaste or a little refresher of the good one.
What is it called? Whispers of the Old Gods has been out for like 2 weeks now.
Let's
do a fucking Hearthstone.
And that game's been out for 2 years now.
Yeah, but the game is incredible. Shut your mouth.
What can we do with Hearthstone?
I don't know. There's a bunch of shit we can do with it. You're the one coming. I'm not coming up with your shit anymore.
If there's a bunch of shit, throw some shit at me.
All right. No, I got it. You guys can just do rando decks. So the game has a really good, if you just create a class, don't put in any of the cards, just cancel out, and it'll say, do you want me to fill in 30 cards for you? Click yes, and mono fight. That's what you guys can do.
So we'll do a best of 3 with that?
Yeah, Chris? Best of 3 with the rando decks. You can pick any class you want, but no picking cards. No picking cards. All right, guys. Get ready for that Hearthstone match, and also get ready for this week's Metabet Doom for the PlayStation 4.
Oh, the new one.
The new Doom. I've got my number written down. Actually, I can't.
Like doo-doo.
More like doo-doo.
It's going to be doo-doo.
I'm actually not typing my number in chat because I'm not having Twitch chat open for about a week or 2 until I beat Uncharted. So,
okay, so you can just say yours out loud or something?
Yeah, I've got mine written down. I got hands. Oh, you can't see my hands either. I was going to say I got my hands up. I'm not typing it, not changing it. So I got my number right here in my head. You guys let me know when you're ready.
I have my number ready.
I have my number in my head. I just have to write it somewhere.
All right.
Are we writing these numbers? I don't have a pen. I do have a pen. I don't have.
It's fine. This is riveting radio.
I don't have paper. I have a $1 bill. I'm gonna write it on this $1 bill.
Okay,
that's illegal, Mitch.
Yeah, Mitch, you're gonna go to jail, and we have video evidence.
You have it on camera.
History.
All right, guys. Chris, hold it up. What do you got?
Whoopash.
Oh, Chris has an 81. Mitch, let's see it. 77, and I have an 80. So we are quite fucking close.
We're like right there.
I thought I was too high at the beginning, and I should have just gone lower. God damn it.
Yeah, very close. Very close.
I mean, we talked about this when we talked about early access, and it did not. People were not happy with it during.
No, it doesn't look good.
It
does not.
It didn't look good. I don't think that's going to change much at all.
Me neither.
So we will see what happens. We will see what happens next week. I mean, I want to play it. I really do, but I don't think I'm going to buy it. Are either of you guys going to buy this game?
No, not a chance.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Well, as always, Analog Stick Radio is brought to you by Big Cultures. Now, if you've never been to Big Cultures, it's a site that features video game reviews, opinion pieces, and a bunch of digital media. We got this show. We have another podcast up there, a bunch of different videos. If that's something that you're interested in, if you've enjoyed yourself here, go check it out because there's more of it right there, www.bigcultures.com. If you want to reach us, Analog Stick Rad Guys, you can email us at analogstickradio@gmail.com. Or you can tweet us. Well, you can tweet us, but we won't see it at ASR Podcast.
Why won't we see it?
Aren't you not looking at Twitch?
Oh, Twitch, not Twitter. You're talking about Twitter.
Oh, that's Twitter. That is Twitter.
Brain fart.
That is Twitter. Twitter, ASR Podcast. Speaking of Twitch, we record every single Tuesday night right here at twitch.tv/analogstick.radio. We record at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to come hang out with us instead of listening to the podcast, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, we're published to iTunes and every podcast tracker you can think of.
Google Play now, too. That's a new one.
Oh, and Google Play. Look at that.
Yes.
We've graduated. Ladies and gentlemen, it took us to episode 35, but we're finally on your Windows phones. Any parting words before we go play some video games, gentlemen?
Let there be video games.
The Chris has spoken. So once again, my name is Mitch. For myself, Chris, and Dakota, this has been Analog Stick Radio. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Farewell.